We call it people technology.
Historic day in the history of the Indian Premier League. Two games to kick off simultaneously for the first time. It was supposed to create parity, at least among four teams, if not eight, to have no real advantage of the equations and the scenarios. As it turns out, it's absolutely irrelevant to the playoffs, so you think it would be, because mathematically neither can Bangalore up. Chennai Super Kings in second place, nor can Mumbai rise above Kolkata, who had such an emphatic performance against Rajasthan Royals last night. Yet here we are on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout. We'll be looking ahead to four teams and two games simultaneously. So we had to roll out the big guns. Today, it's a very good morning at 2:30 in the morning in Auckland to Daniel Vettori and Gautam Gambhir. It doesn't get any bigger than this. All the superheroes come out towards the end of the league phase. Daniel, I hope you're doing well. I'm sure you've not missed a single ball of the IPL, which kicks off at 2:30 in Auckland and ends at some unearthly hour. God knows what.
I can't wait for these two important games.
Yeah, simple as that. I've already got some incredible news. Manish Pandey has walked out for the toss for Sunrisers Hyderabad. So no Kane Williamson. There you go. There's already plenty to talk about. But let's first focus for just about 3 or 4 minutes on Delhi and Bangalore. These are two teams we'll hear a lot more of in the next few days. They've both gone in unchanged into this last game. Gautam, very interesting now. Two teams who are set to play in the playoffs. They could have either chosen to rest players. They could have also looked at certain positions in their team if they feel like they want to try out someone else. Dushmant Chamira, Wanandu Asaranga, maybe someone from the capital, Sam Billings. But they've both gone unchanged. What do you make of that?
No, first, I don't know whether the Sri Lankan players are actually available for the playoffs. If they are, they should have actually gone with Chamera for sure. If not Hasaranga, because Hasaranga depends on the condition as well. And probably if you're playing at Sharjah, you might just need Hasaranga. So if they're available, they could have actually gone with Hasaranga and probably had given him a game before Sharjah. Again, George Carton, I don't know what he gives to Virat Kohli, though he's a left armer if you want to change of angle. But if Chimera was available, 100% Chimera because he can bowl 145 and pace is pace. And if you see the record of what RCB has done in this tournament, they haven't got wickets in the first 6 overs, and that's been their problem. And somewhere down the line, probably in the playoff, it can actually come back to hurt them big time. So you need a bowler of Chimera's class with Siraj, with the new ball, and then you've got Harshal Patel and Yuzvendra Chahal, which makes your bowling look really solid. Garton or Kyle Jamieson does not have that pace or probably that ability in T20 cricket to probably get you wickets up front.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Jameson, we didn't know what sort of T20 commodity he'd be, Dan. He impressed in the first leg of the IPL after that big money that he went for at the last auction. Suddenly, in a few games in the UAE, it looks like George Garton is the preferred option. There's also room for Dan Christian in this side. If you're a team like RCB, you've made the playoffs. Now, there's one way to approach it, which I'm sure you have in the past. Stick with the same team if you're winning, or if you back them, or you think, no, there are still places that we can improve. So why don't we try a few guys? Who knows? Maybe there'll be better options for the playoffs. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, I'm glad they've actually kept the same team as from the previous game because it shows that this probably is their best playing 11 or what they perceive to be their best playing 11. So they've given them a chance, whereas possibly in the past they would have had another go at trying to find that 11. But this looks like it is. They're comfortable with the balance. Christian in that top 5 or 6 to give him extra bowling and to keep giving Garden games, even though I don't think he's bowled his full complement of overs yet for them. So. Look, whatever their decision is, you can sort of argue the merits of the actual 11. I think keeping the same 11 will hold them in good stead heading into that playoff.
Delhi Capitals are also unchanged, Gautam. So Marcus Stoinis has still not made a full recovery. Ripal Patel keeps his place, which takes us to the very curious case of possibly Delhi fielding just 3 overseas players in an IPL playoff in a couple of days' time. Are you happy with that? Giving Ripal Patel another couple of games, or at least one more?
No, I don't think so. This is not the best playing 11. And they could have actually gone with Steve Smith or Sam Billings for him because he didn't bowl in the last game, and you've got 5 quality bowlers. When you've got 5 quality bowlers, they will deliver it for you. They've delivered throughout the tournament. Yes, if Marcus Stoinis was available, then obviously he walks in straight away in place of Ripal Patel. But if he's not available, then either Steve Smith or Sam Billings. Steve Smith would have been a preferred choice because he's already played a couple of games for them. You still need to win. It's not that okay, you've been in the top 2 and obviously you're there, but you want to go into the playoff by winning your last game. and whether you're going to play Ripple Patel in the playoff if Stoinis is not fit, don't know about that.
You and me love talking auctions and franchises and squads, Dan, and there are two theories that we look at. If a team fields three players, does that reflect strength in the Indian contingent, or does that almost reflect, not enough planning to cover for their overseas options? Now, when you have a Ripple Patel, an uncapped domestic Indian player, play ahead of Sam Billings or Steve Smith, what does it tell you?
Well, normally it tells you that a team hasn't planned well and they've got it wrong and they've made some poor decisions along the way. But sort of Capitals fly in the face of that, being top of the table. So they must have immense confidence in him to be able to come in ahead of a Smith or a Billings. I agree with Gautam. I would have played Billings. I think he's played so much T20 cricket. He's so experienced, and he can fit into any role that they require. So it does feel odd. But when you're top of the table, you get the luxury of the benefit of the doubt, and I think we have to give this to the Capitals in this situation.
And
All
just
right.
one thing.
Yeah, here's
Okay, you
one.
don't want to pick Steve Smith because obviously Shreyas Iyer is batting at 3. You've got Prithvi Shaw coming as an opener, and you don't want to push Steve Smith. Can't be batting at number 4 or 5 because that's not his natural game. So Sam Billings absolutely fits into this playing 11 because he literally bats at number 5 or 6, and that is where your vulnerability is. When you've got Shreyas Iyer at 3, Rishabh Pant at 4, then you can have Sam Billing at 5, and Hitmire at 6. That gives you such a solid batting lineup, and that probably they could have gone that way, and they should have gone that way.
Yeah, I mean, there is room for Sam Billings. You look at that team and you wouldn't agree more. Sam Billings plays in that sort of role, and if Stoinis is fit, he could have always replaced him. But that is how the Capitals line up. And they will play the Chennai Super Kings in a couple of days' time in the first qualifier. We'll see if Stoinis is ready. Franchises just don't tell us anything anymore. We have no idea if Stoinis is recovered, if he's likely, if he's going to play. That's just how the IPL likes to roll. Let's leave these two teams out. We'll have plenty of time to talk about them later. Let's focus on Hyderabad and Mumbai because we're looking back at their season two teams that you think at before the IPL started would have been a lot of people's picks to make the playoffs. Hyderabad so good every year, not much change from the last auction either. And Mumbai Indians, it's been a disappointing season for them. At least Rohit Sharma's won the toss and he's going to have a bat first. So mathematically, this conversation isn't over about Mumbai not making the playoffs. It's not going to happen, surely. But Sunrisers Hyderabad have sent Manish Pandey, no Ken Williamson, Gautam. In comes Mohammad Nabi. There are also a couple of changes that they make. Bhuvaneshwar Kumar is rested, so they're changing things up a little bit. But Williamson out and Manish Pandey to lead. So room for Mohammad Nabi. What do you make of that?
I don't know. Probably, honestly, can't explain this. Manish Pandey was not part of the playing 11, and suddenly he comes in as a captain. Yes, you do. Probably it was just a lottery. Probably he just had to pick a slip, and probably it was his name to captain the side. Because see, if Manish Pandey was not playing in your playing 11, then probably if Kane had to race, you could have given it to Ridhaman Shah as well. I don't know. See again, I think they're a very dismantled kind of a lot in this season. And plus, obviously, Mohammad Nabi is not a bad replacement. If you see, he's a quality player. He gives you two things. But don't know honestly because Manish Pandey captaining the side for me makes no sense.
We were wondering in the last few games, even though Sunrisers were out of it, Dan, whether Kane Williamson is someone that they can still look to, if not retain, then perhaps right to match if they get one at the auction, and build a team around him. There will be a demand for captains and leaders at next year's auction with 10 teams, etc., etc. But does this game tell you that maybe that's not the case? Manish Pandey comes in, he couldn't get a game for the last few games, and comes in specifically to lead for a Williamson and Nabi swap.
Probably knowing Kane, he just said, I'll give someone else a go. What are you looking at to try something different? So I wouldn't read too much into it from their future by their future planning because I think this team has been very strong up until this year, and they've obviously been synonymous with Warner and Rashid Khan. They've obviously discarded Warner, so Rashid Khan feels like their only constant moving forward, and everything else they do will be fascinating because they seem lost. And if you said that before this year about Sunrisers franchise, we would have surprised a lot of people.
Unless Ronak they decide to ask Manish Pandey to captain next year, retain him and ask him to captain. I don't know.
No, that's not going to happen. Surely,
that is the only reason what I can think of asking Manish Pandey to captain the side. Apart from that, I don't see any other reason that he's actually captaining the side. I'm just kidding because I don't think so. He's going to get retained because the kind of performances he's had the last 3 years. So obviously, very disappointing.
He's a big ticket player for the Sunrisers. He's still 11 crore per annum, so that's something for them to consider. We're going to get Tom Moody on soon for the World Cup, so we'll ask him directly, won't we? But I have a theory. Let me see how you two respond to it. Why not give Rashid Khan the captaincy for a game or so? He's going to be your certainty for retention. He's captained a little bit for Afghanistan, just stepped down recently after he was unhappy with the Afghan T20 squad for the World Cup. But Gautam, what do you make of that?
Oh, absolutely. Rashid Khan, Ridham and Saha, he has been part of your playing 11 throughout the tournament. There were guys available. It's not that the guys were not available, and it's just one of those games. It's not like you're starting the tournament with Manish Pandey to captain the side. They should have gone. They could have gone with Rashid Khan as well, and probably that would have been the right decision. And I don't know what to think.
Let's
Probably you will have to ask VVS on this.
Yeah, why not? Actually, we worked with all of them in the last 3 months, which is a shame, actually, because I was hoping Sunrisers do well. Murli has been with us, VVS has been with us, Tom Moody has been with us, and Sunrisers about him. Anyway, let's ask Dan Vettori. He might get the job next year at the Sunrisers. If he was, would he give Rashid Khan captaincy? Or would he be interested?
I think so. I think he's the right answer actually because, like we've both just said, he really is the only constant in the Sunrisers franchise at the moment. He's got experience with Afghanistan. Obviously, he's stepped down from that, but he's very well respected. He's a Sunrisers legend, and I know that he brings that enthusiasm towards the game. So why not for one game? You don't need to show your hand in any other situation. And if you manage Pandy, he must be so confused about what's going on that he's sat on the sideline, he's been in and out, and now here you go, have a token game of captaincy, probably as a farewell gift for your playing time at Sunrisers.
Well, that's probably it. I keep forgetting that this team actually in the 11 has three people who've captained at the international level. Jason Holder is still in that team, Test captain of the West Indies. Mohammad Nabi is captain. He's now resumed captaincy for the World Cup. And of course, there is Rashid Khan, who has had a little bit of captaincy experience too. But that's what you make of it. Let's go into a deeper conversation. Maybe today was just like Gautam said, maybe they just, wanted to pick up a lot, or Dan says that Manish Pandey might just have a farewell. But let's look at what went wrong for Sunrisers this season. We got Dan Vettori and Gautam Gambhir with us. We look at the numbers first. Batting was a problem. It just never seemed to click. It's been a problem for them for a number of years. But the Warner saga stands right on top. Dan, such a big player for them. You saw that relationship would almost never end. That Warner would be an IPL player with the Sunrisers. Still, he decided he doesn't want to play anymore. How badly has that affected them? Are you almost shocked that this has gone south so quickly in one season?
Yeah, I think so. I think I remember a long time ago when it first happened in our discussions, and we were all fairly staggered by it because of the way that obviously what Warner meant to the franchise, how many runs he'd scored, and also the way he'd captained. I always thought he was an exceptional IPL captain. The way he went about the game, how aggressive he was, how in tune he was with the team and his bowlers, and for all that to be discarded on the back of 5 or 6 batting performances, I think, and one of them was 50. His strike rate was a little bit low. Tends to make you think that something is going on in the background for it to happen so quickly. So, look, I still think Warner can be an amazing IPL player, and I think another franchise is obviously going to take a chance on him, and they may even take a chance on him to be captain. So. This must be fascinating to be behind the scenes and being involved with Sunrise, to see it play out, to see how Warner's reacted to it, to see how the other players react to it, and just to see how the coaching staff has reacted to it. And it's obviously led to the position that they're in at the moment. So you cannot say that it's been a good decision.
If you had to make a review of the Sunrisers, Gautam, would you first point that your big player, your alpha, David Warner, has let you down with bat? His international form has been dipping to captaincy is an issue. Or would you say, no, there were other areas that we went into this and we still haven't fixed them? A lot of these Indian players over the years have not performed. What do you think
No,
would
there
be
are a lot of other areas as well. See, again, he's been very consistent, and I actually do not like the idea of having a foreign captain. I will never endorse that, unless and until it's Kane Williamson, because Kane Williamson for me, I think, is the best captain, best foreign captain I've played against. To be honest, because I don't see any other to be that good, and it creates a lot of panic as well. Because suddenly, if your overseas captain, if he's not performing with the bat, then suddenly what happens is that you only got the option of rotating 3 players. So unless it's Kane Williamson, but again, it's not only about David Warner. David Warner has been very, very consistent over such a long period of time for Sunrisers. And one bad season, anyone can happen. The best has gone through that dip of form, but there are many other issues as well. Look at what Manish Pandey Manish Pandey had no performance in the last 3 years, or probably 4 years as well, and they invested so heavily on Manish Pandey. For example, there are other. Bhuvneshwar Kumar didn't have the best of season this time around as well. At the same time, Kedar Jadhav, they got him in the auction. Obviously, he couldn't deliver it for them as well. Riddhiman Sar didn't have the best of seasons, and again, the Indian fast bowling probably the conditions weren't suited to their kind of fast bowling because they wanted the wicket which was low and slow, like Sandeep Sharma, who's a kind of a swing bowler. Bhuvneshwar Kumar is not express. They have Siddharth Kaul, who depends a lot on variations as well. Rashid Khan didn't have the best of seasons this time as well. And probably the reason why Rashid didn't have the best of season because Bhuvneshwar Kumar or the other bowlers could not actually contribute enough. Because to be a successful bowler, you need to have another bowler actually bowling in tandem with you and creating enough pressure from the other end. And that could be one of the reasons. So it's not only about David Warner's form, it's about a lot of other issues as well. They are not managed, which they could not manage. Especially the Indian players, they just couldn't deliver.
Yeah, let's look at some numbers that absolutely back what Gautam Gambhir has said. We'll look at the batting numbers, run through all of them quickly one by one. Look at lowest batting averages this season for a team. You'll find Hyderabad at 2 and Mumbai at 1. This is the reason they find themselves where they are. Just 22.4 per wicket. They have struggled. We also look at the lowest average first innings scores. And you could see Hyderabad lead that list as well. They've posted over 150 batting first just once this season out of 5 attempts, 139, the average first innings score. So that's been one problem. But if we also look at their bowling, it's not only the batting, the bowling too, Dan. If I could just bring up those numbers, they've been known as a franchise that could at one point defend anything when they were successful, when they won the IPL. You remember that season, of course. And they've got the worst average suddenly for pacers for a team this season when we thought they have Bhuvaneshwar Kumar and they've got depth in Khalil Ahmed and whatnot. We also look at numbers for Rashid Khan this season, and that hasn't been great either. So it explains Gautam's point. The economy is still not bad, but he's not quite got as many wickets as he normally does. You've seen all the numbers, Dan. Is this team just now desperate for an overhaul? I still can't wrap my head around how a team that was still so good with few changes is suddenly finding themselves at the bottom of the table.
I wish I had Rashid Khan's terrible numbers because they still look pretty good. It's just I suppose not up to his usual standards. Look, I mean it obviously stands out with every facet for Sunrisers. They just haven't been able to put it together. And for a franchise that's normally so consistent, you normally understand their game plan and you know how they're going to go about things. And those constants were Warner, they were Rashid Khan, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, the Indian domestic bowling that could balance out the likes of Bairstow, Kane, and David Warner being the three overseas batsmen. So they've gone away from that formula because they haven't been able to take the wicket. So I would probably tend to look towards the bowling, and that's what needs the overall first and foremost. So who's going to come into that bowling attack to complement Rashid Khan, and are they going to be able to rely on that formula? Are they going to be able to find enough Indian domestic bowlers who can keep that style of selection going, because they may have to go on a different tact if they can't put together a decent Indian bowling lineup to complement Rashid Khan.
And the biggest surprise for me was the first leg of this IPL because conditions actually suited them when they played in Chennai. And that is how the bowling lineup was actually built for surfaces like that. Slow, low, it's going to grip and it's going to spin. And despite of that, they just actually couldn't deliver in the first leg of the IPL. Second leg of the IPL, obviously they were down and out completely, and the wickets wouldn't have suited their kind of bowling lineup. But the biggest disappointment for Sunrisers has been the first leg of this IPL, because everyone thought that they were one of the favourites to qualify for the playoffs, just because they were playing at Chennai and they had Rashid, Bhuvneshwar, and all those guys, and everyone thought that they would deliver on that kind of a wicket.
Right, back to the drawing board then for those many great names in the Sunrisers management and dugout. So we'll see what they come up with ahead of the next auction. Let's look at the Mumbai Indians as well. Let's bring up the issues that we feel went wrong, and it doesn't take any rocket science. If you followed their season, you know their middle order batters just never quite got going. There's a general lack of depth in the squad, which is interesting because they've relied on such a good core group of players that they've never needed to play 20, 25 players, 26 players a season like a lot of other teams. And Trent Bolt's not been as effective as he was last season. The spinners also haven't been as penetrative. Let's pull out the numbers first, shall we? The batting average for Ishan Kishan, Surya Kumar Yadav, at the back of their T20 World Cup selections, it's triggered so much debate, but they've just not had the season that they had previously. Look at Kishan, who ended with the most sixes in 2020 in the UAE. Poor numbers there. Hardik Pandya, the batter, also hasn't quite come to the party. Is that the biggest problem, Gautam? The fact that these guys, after Rohit Sharma, have not carried the weight that they did all these years.
Yes, absolutely. And one more reason could be because they're so used to playing at Wankhede, which is just a flat track, and you can actually smash it wherever you want. If you see someone like Ishan Kishan or Hardik Pandya, they relish those kind of wickets and that kind of a ground as well. Certainly, when you come to UAE, bigger grounds, we've got something for the bowlers. Obviously, it's a challenge, and it was a huge surprise that they were so lethal in the previous edition, which happened in UAE, because I always thought that they needed surfaces which suits their kind of batting as well. And somewhere down the line, it had to get exposed, and this was probably the season it got exposed again. For me, I think Ishan Kishan and Hardik Pandya was a bigger disappointment, because Surya Kumar Yadav obviously he's played a lot of cricket, and then he's played different formats as well. Hardik Pandya, because he plays only one format, and he had enough time to actually get probably acclimatized and get used to this format, and still couldn't deliver. Was a massive surprise. So was with the Ishan Kishan as well. Sometimes you just got to adapt to the conditions and the ground as well, and the pass. But you can't just go in every stadium thinking that we got to smash it and probably get to 180, 190, what we are so used to doing it at Wankhede. So it's not about the ability; it's about the game sense as well. The sooner you get the game sense, the better you become. And you can't get that game sense sitting in the dugout or thinking that I can smash anyone anywhere in the world, because things can change and the conditions can change, and that could be one reason, because the middle order just couldn't fire this time around.
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time on their middle order, Dan, and I guess a lot of people would, but I'm just going to bring up more numbers here. It's amazing how nothing seems to have worked for the Mumbai Indians this season. Everything that worked in 2020 and previous editions, whether we look at Trent Boult bowling in the power play, where he picked up wickets, 16 wickets. I think he had the most maidens as well last season, and he's picked up just the two in the UAE this season. This is just the UAE leg. Boult not as effective. You look at numbers of the backup team as well. You look at players like Rahul Char, Krunal Pandya. When I say backup, I mean the next line. They always make the 11s. Krunal Pandya has had a particularly poor IPL. Rahul Char's finding himself out of the playing 11. They're giving a game to Piyush Chawla today, by the way, but more on that later. I'm wondering what you would think if you were in Maila Jayawardene's position. Is this just a great team that's had a bad year, or suddenly is this team, something which you feel like, maybe we won that good, we need to make a lot of changes too ahead of the auction?
It'll be a fascinating one. I think Mumbai deserves some leniency. I think the way that they've played in the previous seasons, how successful they've been, and how good they've been at building a squad. Because if you look at that, the balance of their playing 11, I think everyone's envious of it. Their all-rounders, the Pandya brothers, they've always seemed to be able to fill in gaps whenever they've needed to, with the likes of Ishan Kishan coming in last year and doing so well. Look, I would implore patience for them. I think you're allowed that year where things don't quite go your way, and like Gautam said, they'll hopefully get back to Wankhede next year, and they'll understand how to play in those conditions. And those batsmen that have struggled to adapt to those conditions won't have to worry about that. They won't have to overthink things. They can just go out there and game. And so, I would hope that Mumbai gives their squad the chance to come back again. And go again, because I think it is an off year, and I think some of their key players just haven't performed, and that can happen in a disjointed season.
Has this year in some ways helped the Mumbai Indians ahead of a big auction, Gautam? I wonder if the big auction was last year, whether they would have been really scratching themselves as to who to let go. Quinton de Kock had a brilliant season. Trent Boult was outstanding. Pollard was still winning them games. Now suddenly a lot of the guys, Rahul Char, Krunal Pandya, Hardik, with his fitness. What do you think this season would do for them ahead of the auction? Would they still be hungry for the same group of players?
Oh, they will be, but I'm not sure whether they're going to get the same kind of a group, because there are two new franchises coming as well, and I'm sure there will be bias for people like Ishan Kishan, or for example, if they're not able to retain Surya Kumar Yadav or one of the Pandya brothers, or for that matter, even Trent Boult. So I don't think so. Once they go into the auction, and that's what the beauty of IPL is all about. Of that Surya Kumar Yadav, if they get picked by any of the other franchise, they might never be able to play again for Mumbai Indians, and that just could probably be the last game for Mumbai Indians. So it gets emotional as well. Sometimes when you're playing the last game of the season and you know that there's a big auction next year. But again, one thing I can surely say that they will never be able to get the same squad what they've been able to build in the last 3 or 4 years.
Dan?
Yeah, no, I think we first of all need to congratulate Mumbai on assembling such a good squad. I think they did an amazing job. When you look at them on paper compared to some other teams, you wonder how they're able to pull it off and how you're able to get all that talent. together and to be so successful for the last 4 years. So they will have to move on, but they've proven themselves to be smart in these situations. They scout better than any other team in the competition, and they pour resource into that. So that allows them to be better than every other team. So this will be an off year for Mumbai, but they've got too many smart people within their organisation, and also the players that they're able to retain, and the likes of a Bumrah and a Rohit sets you in pretty good stead pushing forward.
Anybody going for Mumbai to get 275 and dismiss Hyderabad for 102? Anybody? Any takers? No.
You.
Nah, not even me. No. I'm just from Mumbai. I don't have any loyalty to franchises. Let's leave it there. Thank you, Dan Vettori and Gautam Gambhir. More from you on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout as the league stage comes to an end. What a wonderful point by both Gautam and Dan. We should actually celebrate this terrific T20 franchise. Many of these guys may never wear Mumbai Indian colours, or may not wear it at least for the foreseeable future if they are lost to other teams at the next auction, which you think is likely to a certain degree as well. So sit back, enjoy, and we'll wrap things up as the day goes on.
We call it people technology.